So finally, it's over. The 9-episode saga that Star Wars has given us. And just to let you guys know, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. Any spoilers that I'm going to be talking about were shown in the trailers, and that's it. Season's greetings, everyone. I'm Justin, and today we're going to be talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Like I said, for the sake of not spoiling anything, the plot of this film is Rey, Poe, Finn, and a lot of the characters from the other movie come back, and it's up to them to stop the bad guys. It's really as generous as I can be right here. If you guys aren't going to see this movie, I get it. You didn't like the direction of Force Awakens or Last Jedi. This one is very different, but I will say I'm going to be doing a spoiler review in a few days. So if you guys want to check that out, please do. There's lightsaber battles, space battles, new places, new droids. It's a very Star Wars-esque movie. Who would have thought? So I'm going to really talk about what I liked about this movie first, what worked for me. And of course, as always, just like the previous Star Wars films that he did, John Williams does an amazing job with the score on this movie. There's some nostalgic pieces, some new pieces, and just some pieces that get you hyped up. The one thing I was kind of weird about is at the beginning crawl, when you hear like the opening Star Wars theme, it just goes like they cut out like 10 seconds of the build-up from the original song, which is a little weird, and I felt like the credits were going by a little fast. Maybe that was just me, but regardless, John Williams' score, his orchestral music, does really heighten this film for me. So next, let's talk about the character arcs. From start to finish, I was happy with Rey, Kylo Ren, I was happy with Finn, for the most part, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, the character development is the main point of this film that saved it for me. Granted, there is other moments that were good, but the plot is just super simple. We've seen a lot of elements of this overall plot in previous Star Wars films. Even certain parts of the plot where, okay, we have to go to this planet to find this item that leads to another item that might point to where we need to go. It feels very video game-ish to me, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I was just like, this doesn't fit Star Wars too well. Like, at least in the original films, like, Obi-Wan was trying to find out where Kamino was. So he was searching, asking some of his buddies where this dart came from. He goes to the Jedi Temple to try to find it. It's not there. Like, he has to work for this. And in this movie, like, they're just like, oh, it's not there. Let's check here. It's just plopped into their lap. It's super simple and not rewarding at all. And just like Last Jedi, they do some retcons in this film. Certain characters that they made out to be a certain way in the previous film, once they reintroduced them in this one, they definitely just change how they overall feel. It's like, all right, like this is what fans wanted. This is what they originally wanted, not what you gave them in the last film. That's good and all, but it's not consistent out of the 3 movies. Rose, played by Kelly Marie Tran, I feel so bad for her as an actress because she got so much shit for her character in the last movie. I mean, it's fair because I didn't like her character, but I'm not going to go kicking her down for it or anything like that. But they kind of tone back her character in this film. She has less to do than she did in the 8th one. She didn't make or break the film. She was just there. As far as droids go in the movie, BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2 were all great just like they are in the other films. There's a new droid by the name of like DOD-O. And it was just super annoying to me. I didn't like it. I feel like it definitely appealed to kids. I mean, I can understand Star Wars wants to appeal to everyone, but I just thought it was corny and took me out of a lot of moments. Certain dialogue in this movie really takes me out of it. Like in The Last Jedi, they had like a little argument and it's like, hi, I'm holding for Hux. Can you hear me? He's just like, I can hear you. Can you hear me? And I was just like, are you just doing some stupid like phone call thing? And then he talks about his mom. They do the same thing in this movie. Like, there's a scene where someone's walking by and he's like, yeah, that looks rad. And the guy's like, goals. I'm like, did he just say goals in a Star Wars movie? Like, this is supposed to be in a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Like, why are they using our modern day lingo? Okay, as you can hear in the trailers and see in the poster, Emperor Palpatine is back in some way, shape, or form. What they do with his character is super satisfying and just a real treat. Certain things that they do in this film are linked to episodes 7 and 8 and do explain things, but I don't think that's fair. You shouldn't have to have 2 other films come out before you fully understand why they were doing things in other movies. I mean, like, granted, like, Darth Vader revealed he's Luke's father in episode 5, and then they revealed that Leia and him were brother and sister in episode 6, but that didn't, like, change episode 4 and 5 as a movie that much. I mean, it just said, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. This one's just like, oh, is that what they were going for, that vague ass thing they did in episode 7, or that vague ass thing they did in episode 8, and okay, finally it's explained. It took them 6 or 7 hours to do out of 3 movies, but there's a lot of nostalgic moments in this film, just like episode 7. It's done by the same director, J.J. Abrams, so it's not really a surprise. Certain times they go a little bit overboard, like they're playing that chess game in the Millennium Falcon for the 9th time out of all these movies. Like, come on, we get it. There's a chessboard in the Millennium Falcon. We don't need to see that over and over again for the sake of nostalgia. But other than some dumb and really reaching moments like that, they do most of the nostalgia right in this movie. Billy D. Williams' character, Lando Calrissian, is back, and I really liked what they did with this character. He's not in the movie a whole lot, but he's in it just enough to be satisfied with this character, and after 9 movies, you're just like, you know what? That's cool, I'm okay with this. Kerry Russell's in this movie. She does a decent enough job for what she's given. She's a scoundrel. She's a female version of Poe, basically. And, damn it, I wanted to go into more, but I can't. The last character I really want to talk about without spoiling anything is, surprisingly, they do Princess Leia's arc really well in this movie. Like, they took unused clips from episodes 7 and 8. They didn't really use any CGI, and they just kept her spirit going. The way that she was portrayed in this film, I was really happy with her arc. Out of Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, I did like Rise of Skywalker the best. It's not saying much. If I were to compare it to any other movies, I'd say I did like it better than Attack of the Clones. I would have to go and analyze these films again, of course. That'll be a future video, probably. There's great action, there's super good character development, there's a lot of cool things that everyone was theorizing that do pay off, for some people at least. There's good lightsaber battles, the dogfights with the spaceships, they were okay. It's not like Rogue One where they have like a planned battle and they get like the Hammerhead Corvette and like bash the one starship into the other one. This one's just more or less the same. It's a very general fight. I'm not saying where it takes place in the movie, but all in all, I feel like this movie could have been like a half hour longer. There's a lot of lore and action they could have made more intriguing to us. If there's an extended edition 2020 about to come out for this, sign me up. Poe, Rey, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Kylo Ren, Lando Calrissian, all their arcs were fantastic in this movie. I really liked the direction they went. Finn, I was happy for the most part. Towards the end, I really wish they did something just a little bit more with this character, but hey, he got more to do in this movie than he did in The Last Jedi, so I was at least happy for that. The Knights of Ren, I mean, they did what they could with them. They really should have been spread out between episodes 7, 8, and 9, not just 9. And I don't know if this is really a spoiler or not, but the broom boy from the end of episode 8, the dude who force grabs the broom wearing the rebellion ring that Rose gave him, and he's looking up at the stars and the movie ends, it seems like they build him up. He's not in this movie, so I mean, maybe that's like a future thing they're setting up, although I know they're not doing any movies for a while, which is fair because I want them to just take a break, write a good plot, write good subplots and characters, and just come back in maybe like 3 or 4 years with a movie. They got a lot of Disney Plus series going on. We have Cassian Andor, we have The Mandalorian, obviously, and then the Obi-Wan's coming up. The only things, like I said, that really brought this film down for me is D.O., the very simplistic plot, some nostalgia that just didn't need to be in there, that's been beaten over our head a million times before, and the modern day dialogue just kind of takes me out of it. But for the most part, all of these characters and plot points that we knew and loved from previous films were pretty rewarding when they tied them up in this one. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker gets a passing score, 6.5 out of 10.